Praise the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and peace to everybody that's here in the name of Jesus. Peace to everybody that's listening to us on the line and also that's tuning in on the internet. Last week when we had the feast, I was going to name a few names, but we know we got a lot of people that's listening to us that's not here with us in person, and we always glad to have them and hope that they get edified like we hope to get edified here. Well, we're going to get into the lesson. I was looking at the choir. I said, now when they start doing those moves, I said, now I remember why we got those gowns. Because I remember a long time ago they did some moves. You saw a whole lot of stuff shaking. So now at least they got something with a little more cover to it. But y'all can give them another hand. They did a good job. And you could thank Sister Rosie for the robes that they have, our resident seamstress. Well, we're going to get into today's lesson. Like I said a couple of weeks ago, I was going to do this one last week and then ended up switching. And then even today, I was going to do something else. I was going to do this one along with something else. Because tithes can be a short lesson for us here. And if you've been coming here a little bit and you haven't heard nothing about tithes, you might say, well, I was waiting on it. I was waiting on the other shoe to fall. I knew they was going to try to hit me up for some money. But you would have had to be waiting 2 years to hear it, because that's when the last time we did a lesson specifically on tithes was over 2 years ago. Probably almost 27, 28 months ago was the last time. Because tithes is just another lesson for us. It's not something that we beat people over the head with every week to try to get something out of them. Because I got enough sense to know that if I was going to stick somebody up, it's a whole lot of safer places to do it than using God's word to stick them up. Believe me, I've done it before. So that's one thing that I've learned not to even attempt to play with, and that is trying to use the word of God for your own gain. So we don't have no hidden agenda. Even when we talk about a lesson dealing with tithes, it's just like anything else. There's something in the Bible that need to be known, and we're not looking for nothing for ourselves personally. People can come here for the longest, and people might have came here for the longest. I wouldn't even know, and never dropped a penny into our offering. It wouldn't faze us one bit. They wouldn't even get a funny look from us, because we ain't looking for that. We set up here to give people something, not to get nothing. That's our purpose for being set up here, is to give you something. So that's why people could come, and that's why we don't pass no plate in front of nobody trying to make nobody give nothing. That's voluntary, just like you quit eating swine is voluntary. That's up to you. We're going to read it to you out the Bible. We're not going to come to your house and throw it out your refrigerator for you, though. That's going to be up to you. So that's the same thing it is with tithes. We don't have to have no hidden agenda. But it's in the Bible, and we're going to talk about it. So the title is Tithes and Offerings, Giving Back. And we're going to start off in Leviticus 27. Because even, I've had people tell us, oh, see, y'all preaching tithes, y'all wrong, as if we trying to get something from somebody. I say they really don't know us at all. Because we could care less like anything else. And then have people accuse us, just like we accuse preachers. They say, well, y'all talking about tithes, but they obviously hadn't looked at all our other videos and all our other teaching. Y'all talking about tithes. Y'all not talking about the rest of the law. I say, well, you better look a little further, because we are. So we're not like the average preacher that's talking about tithes, which is in the law, and not talking about other things in the law, because we know all of the law is good. So we're going to start off in the law, in Leviticus 27. And this is when the Lord has set Israel up as a nation. And one thing that a lot of people that think they have some understanding, they think they can get away from tithes because it was given right here to Levi. Well, we're going to read the first two scriptures, going to kind of get into that. And tithes were ordained for Levi concerning the nation of Israel. Levi was the tribe that the Lord set up to be the priest. So tithes were ordained for them in these days. So some people say, oh, see, you have to be Levites to be receiving tithes, and you out of order. And to tell you the truth, even my teacher kind of leaned that way years ago, Brother Bowie. He leaned that way years ago. He'll tell you himself. But he was leaning that way. Plus, he was seeing how all the preachers was robbing people using tithes. So he wasn't even. He was kicking on tithes. And I even asked him years ago when I first started going to the Israel of God. I asked him, what about tithes? And he basically told me, it ceased with Levi. But he know better than that now, of course. But when he told me that, I didn't go for it even then. And when he told me that, I got what he told me, and I turned around and put my tithes in. Because I knew that it had to be bigger than Levi even back then. I understood that. And that's what we're going to see. It could not end with Levi, because we're going to find out tithes didn't start with Levi. You making an offering to God didn't start with Levi. It was much bigger than Levi, even though God later gave it to them. So we're going to start off here in Leviticus 27 and verse 30. Okay, go ahead.
And all the tithe of the land, whether of the seed of the land or of the fruit of the tree, is the Lord. It is holy unto the Lord.
See, now he talk about tithes. So if you don't know, if you ain't been around a regular church, because if you go to any church, 9 out of 10, you're going to hear about tithes. But just in case you don't know, what tithes simply stand for or mean is a tenth. That's what tithes mean. A tenth. And the Lord is saying here, all the tithe of the land, whether seed of the land or the fruit of the tree is the Lord's, it is holy unto the Lord. So the Lord say it belonged to him. But you don't end up giving it directly to the Lord. Even here, they didn't give nothing to the Lord, did they? They didn't physically go up to heaven and say, here it is, Lord. I brought it all up here for you. No, the Lord have an ordained system that he operate through. That's how the Lord operate. That's how he was operating right here, even though he said all the tithe of the land. So some people even read this. They say, well, tithes never was about money. It was about the land. It was about cattle. Look, it was whatever you had. If that's all you had was money, then that's what it was. So that didn't mean just because you didn't have livestock or you didn't have no land that you bore some fruit with, you didn't have to give nothing to the Lord. That wouldn't make no sense. But people don't understand the Bible as a whole. So he did say, verse 30, read it one more time.
And all the tithe of the land, whether of the seed of the land or of the fruit of the tree, is the Lord.
Now he said it's the Lord's. What else?
It is holy unto the Lord.
It is holy unto the Lord. So, and that's what a tithe is. He means a tenth. The Lord expects you to acknowledge him, even with a tenth. But go ahead, verse 31.
And if a man will at all redeem aught of his tithe, he shall add thereto the fifth part thereof. And concerning the tithe of the herd or of the flock, even of whatsoever passeth under the rod, the tenth shall be holy unto the Lord.
See, he told you what it was. It was the tenth. The tenth shall be holy unto the Lord. So this is a way of you acknowledging that you trust in God, and whatever you have it because God has allowed you to have it. That is not just of yourself. That's what you're acknowledging. And that's why the Lord, one of his great principles is that you acknowledging him by giving him a tenth. But I'm going to tell you something nowadays. It's pretty hard to give a Lord a tenth with all these greedy, lying, false prophets out here. Because when you give to one of them, they begging, oh, you got to pay your tax. Look, you ain't giving it to the Lord. I'm going to tell you right now. Because they're not doing nothing for the Lord. So that should be the first criteria. You shouldn't pay nobody nothing until you see that they taking care of God's business. You shouldn't give them nothing. Don't give us nothing unless you see that we are really carrying out God's business. Because that's what it's supposed to be for, right? So he said, Even concerning the tithe of the herd or the flock, even whatsoever passeth under the rod, the tenth shall be holy unto the Lord. Now also he said in verse 31, if a man will at all redeem out of his tithe. So they even had a system in place where you could redeem your tithes or some of your tithes, but then you had to basically add interest to that. He said he shall add thereto the fifth part thereof. So he even requires some interest if you did that. But go ahead, verse 33.
He shall not search whether it be good or bad, neither shall he change it. And if he change it at all, then both it and the change thereof shall be holy. It shall not be redeemed. See, now he's telling you, basically, he said you shall not search whether it be good or bad. You know, that's if you had something, because the Lord do want your best. So you don't want to see what you're going to give to the Lord. You don't want to pick and say, well, I'm going to give him the worst. If I had some livestock, well, this is my, this is the worst over here, so I'm going to give that to the Lord. You don't want to do that. And he was talking about still, once you had redeemed it, you couldn't change that. But go ahead, one more verse, 34. These are the commandments which the Lord commanded Moses for the children of Israel in Mount Sinai.
Okay, so like all the other commandments, this came from the Lord. It wasn't nothing Moses made up. But again, he set this system up. He set it up through Levi. So we're going to flip over the Numbers right quick, the 18th chapter. He set it up through Levi, and this is what throws some people off, and they think they're real wise. They say, oh, you know, y'all up there preaching tithes, and see, you ain't no Levite. And it was set up for the Levites. So you shouldn't be saying tithes, as if somebody is actually doing something wrong if they decided to pay tithes. You can't be doing nothing wrong, because we're going to show you this was a great principle even prior to this time right here, prior to Levi. And then when I read that to people, they don't know what to do. They try to make up some other excuse. I always see, you know, he just did that at that time. Look, it just shows you this has been something good that God has ordained. That's why he put it in this system here with Levi. 18 and verse 20. Numbers 18 and verse 20. Go ahead.
And the Lord spake unto Aaron, thou shalt have no inheritance in their land. Neither shalt thou have any part among them. I am thy part and thine inheritance among the children of Israel. Okay, so now this is when it was set up with the Levites. Started with Aaron, who was a Levite. He was the first high priest technically under Moses, but he was the first high priest. So he said, the Lord had told Aaron he wasn't going to get no inheritance. Like all the other tribes inherited land, they had a specific space of land in the nation of Israel. But Aaron or the Levites didn't get no particular tribe. There was no tribe of Levi designated, or this land, this area as for their land. Because they were scattered throughout the whole land of Israel, because they had to be the priests to the whole nation of Israel. So they were scattered all over. So there was no tribe of Levi quarters over here. They was all over. So that's why he said, he spoke to Aaron that he wasn't going to have no inheritance. So how was they supposed to survive, though? Their job was to be the ministers for the Lord, and the people were supposed to support them. And that's what went on. See, that's where preachers get carried away, though. They say, oh, yeah, they quote scriptures like the Lord, the workman worthy of his hire, and, you know, just like this right here. He's showing you that Aaron and the Levites got the tithes. But see, he didn't give it to them so they can be rich and make this a rich thing for them. He didn't give this was just support. Go ahead, verse 21. And behold, I have given the children of Levi all the tenth in Israel. But now he said it, right? He said, I've given the children of Levi all the tenth in Israel. For what? For an inheritance. But one thing, they didn't get no other inheritance, did they? But he gave it to them for an inheritance for what? For their service which they serve. Even the service of the tabernacle of the congregation. See, for their service. So they had to do some service. That's why I say if you dealing with a preacher and he really not serving the Lord, if he lying through his teeth, if he always begging money, the Levites wasn't doing that. If he always begging money, like you had this one preacher, he called himself joking, but I believe he was serious. He said they wish
Now, he ain't talked about stoning nobody or doing nothing for nobody else. He said he wish he can shoot people when he found out they didn't pay tithes. But he ain't worried about when they fornicating or committing adultery or breaking the Sabbath day because he doing all that himself. He ain't worried about none of that. But he upset if they didn't pay tithes. Just like seeing the big preacher in California. He was mad, because people checks bounced. He gave a whole sermon on that. He gave a whole sermon about people check bouncing. See, that ain't right. And basically telling the people you're robbing God and that's all it's about though. But go ahead, what verse you at?
22. Neither must the children of Israel henceforth come nigh the tabernacle of the congregation, lest they bear sin and die.
See, it was just for the Levites. Now, so somebody can read this and say, see, well, you shouldn't be taking tithes because it was just for the Levites. Look, that's when the nation was in order and set up, and the Lord going to reestablish, but wherever God's work is going on, then this is good for whoever doing it. See, because the Levites not in charge. Matter of fact, we can't technically prove who the Levites is. Even though some people try to say they do, you can't prove who the Levites are. But this was the way it was when everything was in order. Nobody else couldn't do none of the officials that the Levites did. It was just for them. And so that's why they did get the tithes. But go ahead, verse 23.
But the Levites shall do the service of the tabernacle of the congregation, and they shall bear their iniquity.
Go ahead.
It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations, that among the children of Israel they have no inheritance.
See, and that is a statute forever. That's why when the Lord come back, he's going to reestablish it all. You're going to know who the Levites are then. But go ahead, 24.
But the tithes of the children of Israel, which they offer as a heave offering unto the Lord, I have given to the Levites to inherit. Okay, so this show you that the Lord said the tenth was his, right? But you didn't actually take it and give it to the Lord, quite naturally, right? No, you gave it to the ones that the Lord was using. That's who you need to find today. He said, I have given to the Levites to inherit the tithes which the children of Israel offer. He said, therefore I have said unto them, among the children of Israel, they have no inheritance. Now let's go to Proverbs 3. See, that's when the Lord got specific when he was setting the nation up. But see, generally speaking, that's why the title is Tithes and Offerings. Because tithes is one thing. That's why we have on our envelopes for those that do want to give tithes. They can mark tithes. But also we have just if you just want to call it off. It's whatever you want to call it, really. We really don't care. Because there were other offerings besides tithes. Tithes was a specific offering of a tenth. But somebody might say, well, no, I don't want to call it tithe. Well, whatever you want to call it. The bottom line is God has a principle that you should recognize that whatever you got, he gave you, and you should be trying to give back. You should acknowledge that. That's what he's letting you know here in Proverbs. Though he's not going to call it tithes. I just knew when I saw tithes in the Bible, I said, if I'm going to try to figure out what I'm going to give back to the Lord, and then I came up and saw that, I said, oh, well, that seemed like a good amount to me. That's why even when my teacher told me, he said, well, that was just for Levi. We ain't worried about it now. I turned around and still put some tithes in. Because I saw that before Levi, Abraham did it, which we're going to read in a minute. So I knew it couldn't have been centered around Levi. Proverbs 3 and verse 10. Go ahead. 3 and verse 9. I'm sorry. Proverbs 3 and verse 9. Go ahead. Honor the Lord with thy substance, and with the first fruits of all thine increase.
Now you see what he said? He said, honor the Lord with your substance. So again, you're not going to take it and give it to the Lord personally, but it's still God going to have a way for you to do that though, right? So he said, honor the Lord with your substance. Honor the Lord with your substance and with the first fruits of all thine increase. So you recognizing that you've been increased by God. So you're going to honor the Lord with this. And he said, notice he said with the first fruits of thine increase. Because sometimes if you don't take the Lord's off the top, you won't never get around to the Lord. Because you can easily put him on the back burner because he ain't knocking on your door for it. Like the other bill collectors. He ain't going to be banging on your door. So he said, okay, I'm going to get around. I'm going to put that, I'll do that later. And you later won't never get here. So he said, honor the Lord with your substance and with the first fruits of all thine increase. Why? But see, in the end, preachers got it right. It's going to benefit you in the end. It's going to benefit you because you're doing God's will. But we have to point out to you, you got to do more than this. Because some people think if they just paying some tithes and putting some money in, that's going to help them out. That's the way the preachers got a lot of people thinking. Oh, if you just, if you paying your money, you all right. Look, you got a whole lot more to look into doing. Matter of fact, you probably should look into that first. But go ahead. Verse 10.
So shall thy barns be filled with plenty, and thy presses shall burst out with new wine.
See, the Lord, He going to take care of you for that. He says, so shall your barns be filled with plenty, and thy presses shall burst out with new wine. The Lord say you honor Him because He the one making you have whatever you got. He the one can make you rich or poor. He's the one in control, and that's what we need to recognize. So he says, so shall your barns be filled with plenty, and thy press shall burst out with new wine. So if you really want to have more, the way to do it is to honor the Lord, like he's saying, with what you're getting already. That is the way to do it. Because he's telling you, he's going to bless you for it. So that is a way for you to even increase more. Now, let's go back to Genesis, the 4th chapter. Back to the beginning. Show you this principle been intact. Genesis 4. So he knew what he was talking about when he told you to honor the Lord with what you get, with what the Lord bless you with, because the Lord allowed you to get what you had already. He allowed you to get that, and he can allow you to get much more. But if you ignore the Lord, he can allow things to shrink on you as well. Genesis 4, and we're going to pick it up at verse 1. Now here's an example going back to the beginning of the Bible. How the Lord expected a return, basically. Even though you can't really get the Lord nothing. You just acknowledging that you know the Lord is the owner of it all. And the reason why you got what you got is because of him. That's what you're acknowledging. You can't really get nothing to the Lord. Even the Lord, and I feel the same way. That's why we not beg. We don't beg for nothing. We don't be asking people, you should be giving more. We could care less. Because I feel the same way the Lord said. The Lord said in Psalm 50, he said, if I was hungry, I wouldn't ask you. That's right. He said, because he don't need it. That's right. So that's the same way we feel. But the reason why we talking about tithes is because it's another responsibility. Genesis 4 and verse 1. Go ahead.
And Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived, and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord.
See now, some people say, well, Cain, he wasn't physically the devil's seed. Some people say that the devil actually slept with Eve. That was the big sin. They just mixed up. See, the devil, he slipped up and he slept with Eve, and see, that was eating of the apple. No, it didn't have nothing to do with that. It tells you right here, Adam knew Eve, his wife, right? That means he laid with her, and that's how Cain was born. Now, spiritually speaking, Cain didn't want to follow what God was saying, so he became spiritually the devil's child. But that's just spiritually. Physically, he was Adam's son, right? It said Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain. In other words, he laid with her, she got pregnant, gave birth to Cain. The first man that was born into this world, technically. That shows you how things got bad real quick. The first man that was born into this world, Adam was made. He wasn't born. But the first man that was born, Cain, killed the second man that was born, Abel. That shows you things been out of whack since the beginning. So she said, I got a man from the Lord, verse 2.
And she again bare his brother Abel.
She bare his brother Abel. See, if it was anyone, if the jury was out on whose daddy was whose daddy, it would have been Abel, not Cain. But these old school Israelites say, oh, the devil slept with Eve, and she had Cain. Now, Adam slept with her. And then he slept with her again, or they was twins. Some people say they were twins. I don't know. I don't even get into it. It really don't matter. The Bible don't say. Because it didn't say he slept with her again right here. It just said, and she again bare his brother Abel, right? Go ahead.
And Abel was a keeper of the sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground.
See, Abel was a keeper of sheep and Cain was a tiller of the ground. But see, it didn't matter what they did. It's going to be how they operate with what they did. That's what's going to be the determining factor. Because some people say, well, see, the Lord, he liked what Cain had. Cain had sheep. But we already read the Lord accept the fruit of the ground, didn't we? In Leviticus. So it's not going to be determined because of what they had to offer. It's how they offered what they had. Go ahead, verse 3. Let's see.
And in the process of time, it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto the Lord.
Oh, now he brought an offering. See, it didn't say nothing about tithes, but he still had to bring some, didn't he? He had to acknowledge, and they understood this, so that means the Lord had let the word go out, right? If you on this earth, you need to acknowledge that I'm the one on it all, and you need to give back to me. You need to acknowledge that. That's why the title is Tithes and Offerings, giving back. So that's what the Lord expected, didn't he? So it said in the process of time, it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground unto the offering. See, it didn't specify how good or bad his offering was, did it? He did bring an offering, though, didn't he? But let's see about Abel, verse 4.
And Abel, he also brought of the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof. And the Lord had respect unto Abel and to his offering.
Now you see what happened? Abel, he brought an offering too. But it's telling you, it specifies what type of what demeanor Abel was when he made his offering, right? It said, Abel, he also brought of the firstlings of his flock and the fat thereof. That means, just like we read in Proverbs, he said, honor the Lord with your first fruits. Abel understood that back here, didn't he? He brought the firstlings of his flock and the fat thereof. You know, fat don't mean big in this case. Fat means the best. He brought the best. He said, if I'm going to offer something to the God, I need to offer my best. That shows you all around in life, period, we need to do that. Not just with, see, preachers use everything for money, but this go across the board. Whatever you going to do, you need to do your best for the Lord. And that's what happened here, right? With Abel, right? It said Abel brought the firstling of his flock and of the fat thereof, and the Lord liked it. He had respect unto Abel and to his offering. See, it didn't have nothing to do that it was sheep and Cain had the fruit of the ground. Cain just threw something together and gonna give it to the Lord. He didn't take time to get the best and make his presentation like it should have been, did he? But now, verse 5, read that.
But unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect.
See, but it didn't say just because it was the fruit of the ground. The Lord would accept the fruit of the ground. If that's what you had, you know, the Lord, he don't need it anyway. So the Lord going to take what you have to offer. You just have to offer your best. He don't want you to just throw something together and shove it in his face like here. Like you on your way somewhere else. Let me get this in here. Lord don't need nothing anyway. So it said, but unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect. And what happened?
And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell.
See, Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. Then later on, you keep reading, he turned around and killed Abel because of jealousy. Abel didn't even talk about his offering. Abel didn't say nothing to him. Abel just did what he was supposed to do, and Cain got upset about it. Now, let's go to Genesis 14. That shows you giving back been ordained from the beginning, hasn't it? Yep. It's not something that started with Levi. See, everything that the Lord have is good. Everything that he gave Israel and the Levites, it was good from the beginning. That's why he ordained it through them. But it's been around prior to them. It was good from the beginning. Genesis 14. This is way before Levi. Matter of fact, Abraham is Levi's great-grandfather. Levi wasn't even born yet when Abraham did this. This is how I always knew. People say tithes was done away with Levi. I said, how could it? It didn't start with Levi. Genesis 14 and 17. Go ahead.
And the king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return from the slaughter of Kedorlaomer and of the kings that were with him. And at the valley of Shaveh, which is the king's dale. See, now the king, this king of Solomon, this talking about Abraham went out. King of Sodom went out to meet him. That was Abraham. Abraham had went to war after the king of Sodom had got beat down. After he got beat down and all their people taken into captivity, Abraham went to war against the people who beat the king of Sodom and them down. Only reason he really went because his nephew Lot was in Sodom and was taken captive. So he went to fight them and he overcame them people. So of course the king of Sodom came out of hiding when Abraham got back. He came out of hiding and going to congratulate Abraham because Abraham actually did him a favor by beating down these other kings. So the king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return from the slaughter of Kedorlaomer and of the kings that were with him at the valley of Shaveh, which is king deals. But not just the king of Sodom came out. Who else came out? 18. And Melchisedec, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine. And he was the priest of the Most High God.
Now also another king, an unknown king, came out. Melchisedec came and met Abraham. It said he was king of Salem, which is really just short for Jerusalem. Jerusalem wasn't even in existence as a city. It wasn't called Jerusalem. But this is showing you it back here. It said the king of Salem came out to meet him. And it said Melchisedec, and he brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High God. And they came up with a lot of speculation on trying to identify this king of Salem. Some Bibles in the footnotes, they said, well, this was some Gentile king that came from afar. They tried to identify him, but we know this is none other than Jesus before he became a man. And we're going to identify him. We know it's him because he is the real priest of God. That's why when Jesus died, got ready to be crucified, that's what he gave the disciples at the Passover, right? What he gave them to recognize his ministry, his new covenant, he gave them bread and wine, didn't he? See, this was foreshadowing that back here, because that was unorthodox for a king to come out with a celebration with some bread and wine. If you was going to come and show some great pomp and circumstances, you would have came out with a whole bunch of fatted calves. But he didn't come with that, did he? He came out with bread and wine. That's why I told you that. But it told you he was the priest of the Most High God. You only got one king and priest because he's king of Salem. And that's none other than Jesus. That's why Jesus is king of kings. And also he is the high priest, isn't he? See, this is him back here, a king and a priest. But we're going to verify that a little further. Go ahead. This was Jesus before he became a man, in other words. Because he wasn't a flesh and blood man when he met Abraham right here. He was an immortal being. That's why he came out of nowhere. But Abraham recognized who he was. Go ahead, verse 19.
And he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abram of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth.
See, now he blessed Abraham before his name was even Abraham. Go ahead.
And blessed be the Most High God, which have delivered thine enemies into thy hand. And he gave him tithes of all.
See, now he said, Blessed be Abram, and also blessed be the Most High God, which have delivered thine enemies into your hand, because that's what it just happened. And it said he gave him tithes of all. He talking about Abraham gave this man tithes of all. Again, God don't need nothing. But he's showing you that this is the order of things for you to recognize him. So he gave him tithes of all that he had. So now, if Abraham gave somebody tithes way before Levi, how are you going to say it started and was done away with Levi? It didn't start with Levi, did it? So how can it be done away with because the Levites are no more? It's bigger than Levi. But now let's go to the New Testament, Hebrews 7. Hebrews, the 7th chapter. And we're going to pick it up at verse 1, and we're going to identify further this Melchisedec. And we're going to verify that he indeed took some tithes from Abraham. Again, Levi wasn't born then. So tithes is not synonymous with Levi. It's just when the Lord set up his priesthood, of course, everything good, he ordained it through Israel. And the Levites. Hebrews 7:1. Go ahead.
For this Melchisedec, king of Salem, priest of the Most High God.
See, it's identifying a king and a priest. See, and again, Jerusalem means city of peace. So that's who this guy is. King of Salem. That really means king of peace. That's what Jerusalem means. And it said, not just that, it said priest of the Most High God, right? Go ahead.
Who met Abraham returning from the slaughter of the kings and blessed him.
See, he met Abraham returning from the slaughter of the kings and blessed him. Go ahead.
To whom also Abraham gave a 10th part of all.
See, Abraham gave him a 10th part of all. And that show you it wasn't based on livestock or the fruit of the ground, because Abraham had really just ripped these people off. Who did some dirt to his nephew. These kings who had took Lot captive. Abraham went and tracked them down, took everything they had, and got his nephew back and all the people. That's why the king of Sodom came out. He was happy. Because he couldn't fight. He probably was on that Sodomite stuff then. But he was hiding out till Abraham got back. Then when Abraham came back from beating them kings down, he came out and met them. But Melchisedec met him. And it said in verse 2, to whom also Abraham gave a 10th part of all. See, Genesis just said he gave him tithes of all, right? That shows you again, tithes is what? It stands for a 10th, right? So Abraham gave him a 10th part of all, but a 10th part of all of what? All of the goods and stuff, that all of the, basically you would call it booty. All of the stuff he got from the spoils of robbing them people after he beat them down. He gave him a 10th part of all of that. So it didn't have nothing to do with just with livestock and fruit of the ground. Go ahead, finish verse 2.
First being by interpretation, king of righteousness.
Oh, by interpretation, this man is king of righteousness. So you're going to identify Melchizedek for us too along the way. Go ahead.
And after that also, king of Salem, which is king of peace.
Let's see a little more about this guy. This is how we know it's Jesus. Go ahead.
Without father.
Oh, he wasn't a natural man with a father and a mother. Without father, and it didn't mean his father was dead somewhere. I think some Hebrews starting to say that now. No, that's because didn't nobody know who his father. That ain't talking about that. You even got some Hebrews saying really that was Shem, Noah's son. Got some of them saying that now. Look, that would be ludicrous because we know Shem's father was Noah, right? So it wouldn't make no sense to say without father, right? But you got some Hebrews, even Hebrews that have been in the word with me for years saying that now. Without father, it said Melchizedek was without father. Go ahead.
Without mother.
Go ahead.
Without descent.
Without descent. He ain't got no bloodline that you can trace from nowhere. Some of the Bibles might even be in one of your Bibles. In the footnote, it said, well, he was a Gentile king, came from a far away. Look, the Lord didn't have no Gentile king come and bless Abraham. This was Jesus himself. Without father, without mother, without descent, having neither what?
Beginning of days.
Oh, he didn't have beginning of days. That sounds pretty clear, don't it? Go ahead.
Nor end of life.
Nor end of life. This was an immortal being who met Abraham. And Abraham gave him a 10th, didn't he? And the guy didn't need a 10th if he without father, without mother, without beginning of days, end of life. It's just a show of your faith, isn't it? The guy didn't need nothing, did he? He said, nor end, neither with beginning of days, nor end of life, but what?
But made like unto the Son of God.
And what else?
Abideth a priest continually.
Abideth a priest continually. Like the Son of God. See, the reason why I say like the Son of God, it is the Son of God, but it's the Son of God before the Son of God even came. So that was an example of the Son of God before there was even a Son of God. Jesus hadn't came yet in the flesh. And that's how we know he is Jesus, because it can only be one priest. It says abide a priest continually, right? Yeah. That means Melchizedek, since he don't die, he got to still be the priest, don't he? Right. He still got to be the priest. And guess what? He is the priest, but his other name is Jesus. Mm-hmm. Both of them can't be priests because there's only one, right? Mm-hmm. So if Melchizedek's still priest, and we know the Bible said Jesus is the only intercessor between God and man, the simple deduction lets you know Jesus is Melchizedek. Right. He said he abideth a priest forever. Verse 4, he's going to tell you about him a little bit more.
Now consider how great this man was, unto whom even the patriarch Abraham gave a tenth of the spoil.
Oh, see, he gave him a tenth of the spoils, didn't he? So it's the Lord not looking for something you don't have. You can honor the Lord with whatever your substance is, can't you? That's what Abraham did. Who Abraham gave a tenth of the spoils. Go ahead.
And verily, they that are of the sons of Levi, who receive the office of the priesthood, have a commandment to take tithes of the people according to the law.
Go ahead.
That is, of their brethren, though they come out of the loins of Abraham.
See, now he took you to the Levitical priesthood on how they received the commandment, which we read, to take tithes from the rest of Israel, right? But it's already showing us that tithes was in existence even before it got to them. So it can't stop if something happened to them, to Levi. So he going over that with us. He said, the sons of Levi who received the office of the priesthood have a commandment to take tithes of the people according to the law, that is of their brother, though they come out of the loins of Abraham. So now they end up taking tithes, but he's showing you Abraham paid tithes. So he's showing you the difference in the priesthoods. They come out of Abraham, so they end up getting the office of the priesthood and receiving tithes, but they forefather paid tithes into a greater priesthood is what he's showing us. Verse 6.
But he whose descent is not counted from them received tithes of Abraham, and bless him that had the promises. And without all contradiction, the less is blessed of the better.
See, the less is blessed of the better. So he's showing that Abraham was less than Melchisedec. Therefore, Levi, who come out of Abraham, is less than Melchisedec. So they both received tithes, but he's showing you this is the real priesthood with Melchizedek. But go ahead.
And here men that die receiveth tithes.
See, that's Levi. Go ahead.
But there he receiveth them, of whom it is witness that he liveth.
And he's still living. Go ahead.
And as I may say so, Levi also, who receiveth tithes, paid tithes in Abraham.
See, Levi paid tithes because he come out of Abraham. So he ain't no better than Abraham. So though he later started receiving tithes from the rest of Israel, he paid tithes. So it's just showing you it's a higher order here. That's what it's showing. But it's showing you too that tithes is not some synonymous with Levi. It was around way before he came. Matter of fact, his forefather paid tithes to somebody else, right? Go ahead, verse 10.
For he was yet in the loins of his father when Melchizedek met him.
See, he said he was in Abraham's loins. He hadn't even been born yet. So he paid into this order. But now let's go further. Matthew 23. Matthew 23, we're going to pick it up at verse 14. Matthew 23 and verse 14. Because we preach tithes because it's in the Bible. We're reading about it, right? Not because we want something from somebody. We preach it because it's in the Bible. And matter of fact, we preach the rest of the Bible as much as the Lord show us. Just like I said earlier, we preach, that's why we're here today on the seventh day, because the law say that too, don't it? It say keep the Sabbath day, the seventh day keep it holy. That's why we stop eating pork and shrimp and catfish and all of that, because Leviticus 11 tells you only eat the clean meats. So we deal with all of it. So tithes is just another principle in the Bible that we deal with. Go ahead. Now this is an example when somebody is hypocritical though, because you do have a whole lot of hypocritical preachers that's going to talk tithes, but they won't tell you nothing else. I have a problem with that. How you going to tell me? Even they going to quote stuff in the Old Testament out of one side of their mouth, but the other side of their mouth they're going to tell you the Old Testament done away with. See, something is wrong with that. So you need to understand that. Matthew 23 and verse 14. Go ahead.
Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees.
See, Jesus talking about these hypocritical preachers of his day. You still got them today. He said, woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees. Hypocrite. See, this is why my preacher wasn't preaching tithes at first. My teacher. He wasn't preaching tithes because he saw all these hypocritical preachers misusing it. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. Go ahead.
For ye devour widows' houses.
See, he said, you devour widows' houses. How do they devour widows' houses? That means they keep begging them. They have lost their husband, but they might have a little money left, but they going to clean house with them. Well, you know, you should be helping the church out. Look, she the one who needs some help, and she a widow, right? But He said, woe unto you scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye devour widows' houses, then do what?
And for a pretense make long prayers. Therefore ye shall receive the greater damnation.
See, they've been to clean a widow, made her think she's supposed to give everything she got. That's not from God. Now you done gave up everything you got, then she needs something and they won't even give her nothing. They say, well, let's just pray for her. We're going to pray for sister so-and-so over there. She having a hard time and she needs some help from the Lord. But you already cleaned her out. And if she been paying tithes all that time, you should be able to help her out some, shouldn't you? But you have preachers won't even, somebody had died in somebody's family and they charge people to bury him, to do a funeral. That's why people be shocked. They say, you don't charge nothing to do no funeral? No, for what? We trying to help you out. They be shocked. Even Ron, I don't know what was on Ron's mind. Ron got up in one time. I think Brother Elias don't charge number $50 to marry nobody. I ain't charged nobody nothing to marry him. I don't know what was on Ron's mind that day. But I ain't never charged nobody nothing to bury nobody or marry nobody. Because we trying to help people out. But anyway, he said, woe unto you scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye devour widows' houses, and for a pretense make a long prayer, you're going to get the greater damnation. What else they do? Verse 23. Go ahead.
Woe unto you scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites.
He keep calling them the same thing, don't he? Because they just totally out of order. Ain't no reasoning. Woe unto you scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. Why?
For ye pay tithe of mint and anise, and coming and have omitted the weightier matters of the law.
Oh, you can see that to this day, can't you? Right. You hear preachers on TV everywhere talking about tithes. Oh, you're robbing God. You're robbing God. Just like I told you the preacher in California talking about because some people checks bounce. He was saying that's just, he was like that was one of the biggest sins in the world you have committed. You got these checks coming back to us. He was upset. But now they will stress the money big time. They would talk about money, money, money. Even people asked me before, they said, well, what should I pay tithes on? If I'm going to pay tithes, should I pay tithes on my gross or on my net? You know, I always tell them the truth. Because I ain't trying to get nothing for, I say, did you get the gross? Nope. Well, why would you pay tithes on the gross? But see, every other preacher have always told them the gross. Look, the government took the gross. They took that part. You ain't even saw it. So why would you pay something on something you didn't even receive? But every other preacher always tell, oh, well, you know, you don't want to be shortchanging God. See, that shows you every little thing they gonna stress some tithe. That's what he's telling you here. Verse 23, he said, woe unto you scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye pay tithe of mint and nice and what do that mean? That mean the smallest little matters, they gonna say they want tithes from it. The smallest little herbs or whatever. You know you should give up some of that too now. And make me some chicken Friday. I'm gonna be by. The smallest thing. They gonna talk about tithes, require tithes, but he said they have omitted what?
The weightier matters of the law.
They have omitted the weightier matters of the law. That means there's some weightier matters than you up here talking about tithes, right? That's why we can't talk about it every week, because there's a whole lot of weightier matters than talking about tithes, right? But you get some preachers, that's their whole thing. It's always money, 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 money. Cometh, money, money, money. We got a building project. We need money for this. We need money for that. We need money. Look, when you going to get stuff straight where you don't need no more money? That don't make no sense. So he said, look, you have omitted the weightier matters of the law. Go ahead.
Judgment, mercy, and faith.
Go ahead.
These ought ye to have done, and not to leave the other undone.
So if you're going to deal with it, you should deal with it all, right? That's what he's telling you. You need to deal with the whole thing. Don't just talk about money because it's going to benefit you. Let's show you somebody got a hidden agenda. Isaiah 55. Back to Isaiah 55. See, we can preach tithes, but at the same time, we can warn you those who lying about tithes and trying to get money for their own personal use. Because we ain't got nothing to hide. We ain't got no hidden agenda. Isaiah 55. That's why even the people that do stuff around here, they still work. Even when I stopped driving a truck, I had to do something else, so I got into real estate, where I could be a little more flexible, but still trying to make my own living. Because we ain't trying to make money off the word of God. Even though by being in the ministry, we can get paid for it. But we trying to be a good example to people. Because you got too many other preachers out there robbing people. Notice this. And this is a shame right here. He warned you. Isaiah 55:1. Go ahead.
Ho, everyone that thirsteth, come ye to the waters. And he that have no money, come ye, buy and eat. Yeah, come. Buy wine and milk without money and without price.
See, now what is this? Is he really talking about some literal wine and milk? No, the word of God should not be for sale, brothers and sisters. This is the good food you should be getting. Because what if you don't have no money? Everybody don't have no money. Some people fell on hard times. Some people got themselves in trouble by making stupid decisions. But some people fall on hard times, right? So that means they shouldn't be able to get the word of God? No, it shouldn't be like that. But that's the way a lot of churches make people feel, but it don't matter anyway. They ain't giving the word of God anyway. So they really shouldn't even want to be up in there. But you got churches that make you feel if you don't have nothing to offer, you don't even need to be there. You know that's going to make you feel bad if they begging all the time and you ain't got nothing. I went to a Baptist church. Do you know they collected money? And every week they put in the thing what people donated to make people want to give more. That's what they did it for. And they put, of course, they put the big donors up high. They had a special section for the people that donate a lot of money. So now if you was wanting to be recognized by men, you was going to try to come up with you some money, and so your name could be over here. But that ain't got nothing to do with nothing. He said, "Oh, everyone that thirsty, come ye to the waters." So if you thirsting for the word, you should be able to get it without money, right? He that have no money, that's what he said, right? But you try that no money trick at the average money hungry preacher church. It don't work too good. He that have no money, come ye buy and eat. How you going to buy and eat without money unless you getting something spiritual and nobody trying to get nothing from you? Come ye buy and eat, yea, come buy wine and milk without money and without price. See, that's the way the word of God should be presented. It shouldn't be led off with money. That's why we don't even put no plate in nobody's face, because that's a free will offering of your own. We shouldn't have to pass no plate around and try to make somebody give something. That shows you we really want to make sure you give us some money. And for us, we can care less. That's up to you. Go ahead, verse 2.
Wherefore do you spend money for that which is not bread?
Oh, then turn around, he said, but now on the other hand, why do you spend money for that which is not bread? See, a lot of people going to church and they spending good money, but they not getting fed nothing. They wouldn't do that in no other endeavor in life. You definitely wouldn't go to the store and get you a bunch of shopping bags and don't put nothing in, then go up there to the checkout line, say, I'm just going to pay for this right here. And they look at the bag and say, ain't nothing in there, but we still want $150. And you don't have no bread in the bag, right? Do that make sense? But people doing it every Sunday. Because they think some kind of way, because they contributing some money. The preacher made them feel that way. Because they contributed money, that's going to make them okay with God. Preacher haven't gave them nothing to make them okay, though. So the Lord warning you of that. So that's why I say, if you haven't got nothing, if it's not, people is not working for God, you shouldn't give them nothing. Because that's what the offering or the tithe was for. It was really for God, wasn't it? Even though God don't need it, so therefore it has to benefit his program, what he is about, right? Read verse 2 again.
Wherefore do you spend money for that which is not bread?
You spending money for that which is not bread. What else?
And your labor for that which satisfieth not.
Oh, you laboring for that don't satisfy. That means you doing all kind of work. You cooking chicken dinners and pork chop dinners, which is unclean. washing cars, doing all kind of stuff. Staying in church from sun up to sundown, but it don't satisfy. It's not benefiting you. Go ahead.
Hearken diligently unto me, and eat ye that which is good.
Oh, it is something to eat that's good, right? You can get some good food if you at the right place. You got to go to the right diner, though, don't you? Yep. Go ahead. And they're not even going to be begging you for no money. Go ahead.
And let your soul delight itself in fatness.
Okay, 1 Corinthians 9. To the New Testament. 1 Corinthians 9. And we're going to pick it up at verse 9. 1 Corinthians 9. Because that don't make no sense for people to give their money. And they see that that's all the people want. But they so brainwashed they go for it anyway. It's like you know somebody waiting around the corner to stick you up and you go anyway. You raise your hand before you even get around the corner. I know they're going to get me. You know they're going to stick you up. That's what they're doing in the average church. They don't even have a pistol. Sticking people up left and right. But then again, if you getting some bread, nobody should have to beg you to contribute back. You should know that's your responsibility. If you really getting fed something. You have to determine that though. 1 Corinthians 9. 1 Corinthians 9 and verse 9. Go ahead.
For it is written in the law of Moses, thou shalt not muzzle the mouth of the ox that treadeth out the corn. Doeth God take care for oxen?
See, now Paul telling you. He's telling you, look, don't muzzle the ox. See, that's what you would be doing if you getting fed and you know you've been benefited. See, that's what I understood about the church I went to. When I met Brother Bowie and them, I knew I'd benefited, so I wanted to make sure I gave back and helped out. And maybe help somebody else get benefit from it. So other than that, if you don't do that and you are capable of doing it, you muzzling the ox. Somebody working, but you hindering the work because you could be helping. He said, thou shalt not muzzle the ox of the mouth, muzzle the mouth of the ox that treaded out the corn. Does God take care for oxen? Verse 10.
Or saith he it altogether for our sake?
See, that's just common sense. The ox trying to do the work and you're going to put a muzzle on him, you're going to hinder him. But that's how he talking spiritual here. Go ahead.
For our sakes, no doubt, this is written.
Go ahead.
That he that ploweth should plow in hope. And that he that thresheth in hope should be partaker of his hope.
Verse 11.
If we have sown unto you spiritual things.
Oh, now he's breaking it down. What he talking about? He said, if we have sown unto you spiritual things. That's what the ox been working to do. The ox been working to give you some spiritual things. If we gave you spiritual things, what is it?
Is it a great thing if we shall reap your carnal things?
He said, is it a great thing if we shall reap your carnal things? No, it's not, is it? That's just common sense, right? But see, you got to make sure you're getting some food in the basket when you go into the store. Because you shouldn't pay money for that which is not bread. But if you've been benefited, he said, it's no great thing if we sown spiritual things for us to reap your carnal things. Verse 12.
If others be partakers of this power over you, are not we rather?
See, we can tell this to a lot of people going in a lot of these churches, right? They done gave all their money, all their life to a false prophet who haven't showed them even how nowhere close to get into God's kingdom. But they've been giving their money to him. But Paul said if you let others have that power over you, somebody that's really sharing the word should have it, right? Go ahead.
Nevertheless, we have not used this power.
He said we ain't take advantage of this power. Go ahead.
But suffer all things, lest we should hinder the gospel of Christ.
See, that's why even though it's written that those that preach the gospel can live of the gospel, we're not trying to do that because we don't want to hinder the gospel at all. Go ahead, 13. He's going to tell you.
Do ye not know that they which minister about holy things live of the things of the temple?
That's how it was in the old days. Go ahead.
And they which wait at the altar are partakers with the altar?
Go ahead.
Even so have the Lord ordained that they which preach the gospel should live of the gospel.
See, now this is where preachers get carried away though. Now he did say this. So a preacher can live of the gospel, right? Even so hath the Lord ordained that they which preach the gospel should live of the gospel. Did he say live rich of the gospel? Did he say have all kind of cars of the gospel? Have a jet plane of the gospel? He didn't say none of that. He didn't say money cometh of the gospel either, did he? See, they just get carried away. They just misuse the way the Lord got it set. Then they not feeding nobody nothing. So like he told you in Isaiah 55, you shouldn't even spend money for that which is not bread. But now he did have it. He do have it this way. Go ahead. Verse 15.
But I have used none of these things.
See, we trying to be just like the example Paul said. He said, I've used none of them. None of these things. So that's why we still working. Some of y'all that know what I do, you know I be hustling around trying to buy and sell houses, right? But go ahead.
Neither have I written these things, that it should be so done unto me. For it were better for me to die than that any man should make my glorying void. So
Paul said, hey, I can live of the gospel. That's the right. That's the way it was set up with the Levites. He understood that. But he said, I have not used none of these things. And he said, I'm not even writing it now so you can give me something now. Because he was right. He did write at verse 11, if we have sown unto you spiritual things, is it a great thing that we shall reap your carnal things? He wrote that, right? But he wasn't writing that for his own benefit so he can get some because he was greedy, right? Just like we're not doing this lesson so we can get some money out of people. We're just doing this lesson because this is another responsibility of the gospel. So he said in verse 15, but I've used none of these things, neither have I written these things that it should be done so done unto me. For he said, it'd be better for me to die than any man should make my glory void. He said he'd rather die, for he had to start living of the gospel, which he could legally do. But now let's go further. Romans 15. Romans 15. We're going to back up to Romans, and we're going to pick it up at verse 15. But it just go to show you, this is just a principle of if you benefiting, you should be willing to give back. That's what tithes and offerings is all about. Period. Romans 15 and verse 25. Okay. Go ahead.
But now I go unto Jerusalem to minister unto the saints. But it hath pleased them in Macedonia and Achaia to make a certain contribution for the poor saints which are at Jerusalem.
See now, even this contribution, Paul has specific use for it. He said it's going to be for the poor saints which are at Jerusalem. He said to please these people of Macedonia and Achaia. Okay, but go ahead. 27.
It hath pleased them verily, and their debtors they are. For if the Gentiles have been made partakers of their spiritual things, their duty is also to minister unto them in carnal things. See, now again, Paul was preaching to Gentiles. That's why he talked about Macedonia and Achaia. But he said they're going to make a contribution. He said, and it pleased them. But he said in verse 27, it hath pleased them verily, which means truly, and their debtors they are. So they indebted to do that. That's our responsibility, right? Then he told you why. He said, for if the Gentiles, that showed you who he was talking about, the Gentiles who obviously have more money, always have more money than Israel, right? So he said, for if the Gentiles have been made partakers of their spiritual things, talking about, see, the spiritual things belong to Israel, technically. That's who it belongs. That's who God give it to. He give it to Israel. But unfortunately, since Israel sinned, the money don't belong to us. Hey, we always on the bottom of that totem pole. Since we messed up and got kicked out the promised land. So that was the same way it was here. Israel was high up with the spiritual things, but on the bottom financially. So he said, if the Gentiles have been made partakers of Israel's spiritual things, it is their duty to minister unto them in carnal things. Go ahead, 28. When therefore I have performed this, and have sealed to them this fruit, I will come by you into Spain.
See, he said, when I seal to them this fruit, because they are going to, this is some fruit that they are producing. Just like he said in Proverbs, I'm the Lord with your first fruits. So that's what he was doing. Go to Deuteronomy 16 now. Deuteronomy 16. And we're going to come back to Corinthians. And we're going to try to start wrapping it up. Deuteronomy 16. Just like we just had the feast. And it's a duty for all of us to make the Lord's feast a joyous occasion. That's why we cut out the way we used to do it. We didn't cut it out because we was worried about spending money the way we used to do it. And that is, the class pretty much had made a banquet of the feast. But we cut it out so everybody can participate a little more, because it was just a few people doing all of the work the way we used to do it, and where we had the buffet style set up. But we cut it out so everybody can do their part in the feast and contribute to the feast, even with the work of doing the feast. Just like now, whole lot more people be at home cooking and preparing for the feast than it used to be in the old days. We used to have about 6 or 7 cooks, and that was it. That cooked for everybody here. But we got it now where a lot more people have to cook. But now Deuteronomy 16, see, he's going to tell you that concerning these feasts here. But again, the Lord don't expect you to do something you're incapable of doing or more than you possibly can do. He only expects what you are able to do. 16 and 16. Go ahead.
3 times in a year shall all thy males appear before the Lord thy God in the place which he shall choose.
3 times. That's the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the Feast of Pentecost, which we just celebrated, and the Feast of Tabernacles, which we're going to celebrate in the fall. 3 times in a year. Go ahead.
In the Feast of Unleavened Bread, Feast of Weeks.
Feast of Weeks, that's Pentecost. Go ahead.
And in the Feast of Tabernacles. And they shall not appear before the Lord empty.
See, but you weren't supposed to appear empty. See, preachers use stuff like this to get money for themselves, but this is just to carry out God's program. Go ahead.
Every man shall give as he is able.
Oh, now you had to give as you were able, right? You didn't have to do more than you were capable of doing. But you shouldn't try to shortchange either. Every man shall give as he is able. Go ahead.
According to the blessing of the Lord thy God, which he hath given thee.
See, because the Lord can bless you, right? See, and if the Lord haven't blessed you that much, then you don't have to give that much. See, I'd rather be blessed more. I'd rather be able to give more. See, that's why the Bible even said it's better to give than to receive. Some people might not understand that. They say, what do you mean it's better to give? I'd rather be getting. No, I'd rather be giving. Because as long as I can give, I'm doing pretty good, right? See, that's the better way to be. That means God keep blessing me with something. I can keep giving. I can keep giving something. I must be doing okay, right? I don't want to have to be on the receiving end. But sometimes we have to be there. So some people get ashamed and say, well, I don't want to ask nobody. Look, if you in need, you in need. But I'm saying it's better not to be, right? So he said, every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessing of the Lord thy God, which he hath given thee. So you just giving back, right? That's why the title is Tithes and Offerings, giving back. You're going to give according to what a percentage of what God then gave you. Let's go back to 2 Corinthians now. 2 Corinthians 9. 2 Corinthians 9. But preachers then turn the gospel into a get-rich scheme. See, and that's not from the Lord. That's why they know every scripture to talk about to use to get some money out of people. Even scriptures don't have nothing to do with money. They're turned into getting some money. You see? It can really be talking about sowing some literal seed. They say, you got to sow your seed. Second Corinthians 9 and verse 5. Go ahead.
Therefore I thought it necessary to exhort the brethren that they would go before unto you and make up beforehand your bounty, whereof ye had notice before, that the same might be ready as a matter of bounty, and not as of covetousness. So Paul said, look, I told these brothers in advance to come over there and let you know so you can get your bounty ready. This is what they was going to offer. You can get your bounty ready. So, because we ain't covetous, but you need to do what you need to do. He said, so I told them beforehand to exhort the brother to go before to make up
beforehand your bounty, whereof ye have noticed before, that the same might be ready as a matter of bounty and not as covetousness. Paul said, look, it's not that I'm covetous that I'm asking for this, but this is part of your responsibility. And it's going to help in the end. Just like everything that we do is made possible by what people have donated, right? We wouldn't be doing nothing. And because we're not misusing it, trying to get rich and look out for ourselves, we're able to do a lot more with what people give us. That's why we was able to spent $200,000 preaching the gospel on national TV, on the Travel Channel. Over $200,000 in 2 years. That's what we spent. But see, if we was all trying to get rich, we wouldn't be able to do nothing like that. I got 2 houses about to go in foreclosure. I could have easily paid them off with that money, but I ain't thinking about that. They can have them houses back, as far as I'm concerned. But it just go to show you what you can really do for the gospel if you're not really trying to get over yourself. So this is what Paul was saying here as far as a bounty go. He said, and make up beforehand your bounty, whereof ye have noticed before, that the same might be ready as a matter of bounty and not as covetousness. Go ahead, verse 6.
But this I say, he which soweth sparingly shall reap also sparingly. And he which soweth bountifully shall reap also bountifully.
See, now preachers use this, but it's true. But see, people ain't going to reap nothing given to them because they ain't giving them nothing. They ain't giving them no spiritual edification. So they ain't going to reap nothing. But overall, so the Lord tells you to have common sense. Again, you don't spend money for that which is not bread. But when you, as far as the Lord is in righteousness, yeah, he which soweth sparingly shall also reap sparingly. And he which soweth bountifully shall also reap bountifully. So he telling you, you reap what you sow, in other words. Go ahead, verse 7.
Every man according as he purposeth in his heart. So let him give.
See, every man according as he proposes in his heart, so let him give. Go ahead.
Not grudgingly.
Not grudgingly. What else?
Or of necessity.
See, that's why we don't try to force nobody to do nothing, because you have people doing it grudgingly anyway, and it won't do no good. Go ahead.
For God loveth a cheerful giver.
Oh, God loveth a cheerful giver. Go ahead.
And God is able to make all grace abound toward you, that ye always having all sufficiency in all things may abound to every good work.
See, and God is able to look out for you. That's why we're not worried about what people do here, because we know God going to give us what we need to do whatever he wants us to do. That's why we don't have to be big and how much, you got to give this, you got to give it, because that's your responsibility. We're going to tell you about it, and we're going to leave the rest up to God. Now, go to 2 Kings 5. 2 Kings 5. Yeah, 2 Kings 2. It might be 5. I think I wrote it right on my notes and typed it wrong. 2 Kings 5. Second Kings 5. And we're going to pick it up at verse 1. Okay, 2 Kings 5 and verse 1. Okay, go ahead.
Now Naaman, captain of the host of the king of Syria, was a great man with his master and honorable. Because by him the Lord had given deliverance unto Syria. He was also a mighty man of valor, but he was a leper. And the Syrians had gone out by companies and had brought away captive out of the land of Israel a little maid, and she waited on Naaman's wife. And she said unto her mistress, Will God my Lord were with the prophet that is in Samaria, for he would recover him of his leprosy.
Go ahead.
One went in and told his Lord, saying, Thus and thus, and the maid that is of the land of Israel.
Okay, thus and thus said the maid that is of the land of Israel. So this guy was he was a general in this other nation's army, and they had taken captive some Israelites, and of course they had this Israelite woman that was serving them, and the captain in the army had leprosy. So she living in their house, so she finally told them, because see, Israel, the Lord let Israel be subject to other people when they sinned, but Israel still had the spiritual power. And she knew that. She's serving these people. But she got the means to help them out. Now, she ain't nothing but a maid, right? Mm-hmm. But she got the means to help them. So she told, I guess she started liking the people. She said, yeah, you know, I wish your husband, boy, if your husband knew he can get with that prophet in Israel and he'd get rid of that leprosy. So she told the lady that. Finally, the man found out. Even the king of the country found out. Verse 5.
And the king of Syria said, Go, and I will send a letter unto the king of Israel. Mm-hmm. And he departed and took with him 10 talents of silver and 6,000 pieces of gold, mm-hmm, and 10 changes of raiment. Okay, so now the king, not the man had the leprosy, the king who's over the captain that had leprosy, he sent the king of Israel. See, the king of Israel is not the one with the power, though. She didn't tell them to go to the king of Israel. She said, you need to get to the prophet. But I guess they say, well, if we go to the king, he can tell us anybody who can do that in this country. So they sent the man some money, some silver, and gold, and some changes of raiment. Go ahead, verse 6, with a letter. Go ahead. And he brought the letter to the king of Israel, saying, Now when this letter is come unto thee, behold, I have therewith sent Naaman my servant to thee, that thou mayest recover him of his leprosy.
See, they sent it to the king of Israel. You know he in trouble. He know this is some type of trick, because he know he can't do nothing with no leprosy. Go ahead, verse 7.
And it came to pass, when the king of Israel had read the letter, that he rent his clothes.
See, he ripped his clothes off. Oh, Lord, what they trying to set me up? How I'm going to heal this man of this leprosy? Go ahead.
And said, Am I God, to kill and to make alive, that this man doeth sin unto me to recover a man of his leprosy?
Go ahead.
Wherefore consider, I pray you, and see how he seeketh a quarrel against me.
So he's just trying to start a fight, y'all. He's seeking a quarrel against me. You know, good and well I can't take care of this man's leprosy. But go ahead, verse 8.
And it was so when Elisha, the man of God, had heard that.
That's who she was talking about. She was talking about the prophet. Right. She knew what she was talking about. So the Lord let the prophet hear it too. The prophet heard about it. Go ahead.
When Elisha, the man of God, had heard that the king of Israel had rent his clothes, that he sent to the king, saying, Wherefore hast thou rent thy clothes?
He said, why you rip your clothes, man? Go ahead.
Let him come now to me, and he shall know that there is a prophet in Israel.
He said, send him over here. He gonna know there's a prophet in Israel. See, that was the maid's intention. She said a prophet would do it. So Elisha says, send him over here. He gonna know it's a prophet in Israel when I get through with him. Go ahead, verse 9.
So Naaman came with his horses and with his chariots and stood at the door of the house of Elisha.
Now this is amazing. They got all this power, but see, they still got to come to Israel, the prophet, to get out of this sickness that they in. They technically ruling over Israel. That's why the maid is in their land, serving them. But Israel still had the spiritual power. So he came to the prophet, to the door of the prophet's house, right? Mm-hmm. Naaman with all his horses and chariots. That means he had a whole entourage, didn't he? Verse 10.
And Elisha sent a messenger unto him, saying, Go and wash in Jordan 7 times, and thy flesh shall come again to thee, and thou shalt be clean.
Now you see what the prophet did? Now the prophet says, send him here. He gonna know it's a prophet in Israel. But the prophet don't care nothing about this man and what he got. This man got a lot of money. He's a captain in the army. You see, the king sent him over there. The prophet didn't so much as even get out his chair and go see the man. He didn't even go out. You know this was an insult to the man, don't you? This man come there with his entourage and everything he got. But see, he the one needs something. He the one got the leprosy. But he came with all his entourage, pumping all of that stuff. And he came and finally said, well, go over here to this house, probably a little shack of a house. Well, go over here to this house and the man gonna heal you. And then he go to the house and the man don't even come out. He sent a message, said, just go wash in Jordan. You know, that was an insult. He felt insulted too. What did he do? Verse 11.
But Naaman was wroth.
He was upset. He probably wanted to tear something up. But Naaman was wroth, and what did he do?
And went away and said, Behold, I thought he would surely come out to me and stand and call on the name of the Lord his God.
He was looking for Benny Hinn. So he didn't know Benny Hinn didn't live there. He didn't know Benny Hinn wasn't there. He said, I thought he was going to come out and slap me upside the head, go through a whole bunch of stuff, talking about go wash in the river. He got on the man's nerve, didn't he? I thought surely he was going to come out and stand. See, the prophet didn't even go out. He just sent a message. Look, go dip in Jordan. You want to be healed at level? Go dip in Jordan 7 times. That's my instruction for you. The man didn't take the instruction. He got upset, went away in a rage. I thought he was going to come out, call on the name of the Lord his God, and do what else?
And strike his hand over the place and recover the leper.
See, he thought it took all that. Then he went further and say what? Verse 12.
Are not Abana and Pharpar rivers of Damascus better than all the waters of Israel?
See, now he's really getting indignant. We got rivers. I could have stayed at home for some rivers. We got rivers better than they rivers. we running stuff anyway. Why, I don't even know why I came. He's upset now. Are not Abana and Pharpar rivers of Damascus better than all the rivers of Israel? Go ahead.
May I not wash in them and be clean?
Well, you ain't did it yet. Go ahead.
So he turned and went away in a rage.
He was in a rage. He was upset. Go ahead.
And his servants came near and spake unto him and said, my father.
Now later on, they let him cool off. And one of his servants tipped up on him to have some sense and tipped up on him and said, look, my father, what?
If the prophet had bid thee do some great thing, wouldest thou not have done it? How much rather then when he saith to thee, wash and be clean?
See, he said, look, you know, if the prophet had told you to do some great thing, like see how you can ride your horse up that mountain, and so you can get clean, you would have tried, your dumb self would have did that, wouldn't you? He really was calling them dumb, but he couldn't do it because he's a servant. He said, you would have tried that. Ride your horse through the waters 18 times, you might have tried that. But how much more if the man just said, wash and be clean? Is that too hard? You ain't got nothing to lose. Right. Verse 14. He finally listened to some good counsel. What?
Then went he down and dipped himself 7 times in Jordan.
Just like the prophet said. Go ahead.
According to the saying of the man of God.
And what happened?
And his flesh came again like unto the flesh of a little child, and he was clean.
See, it happened just like the maid. It says, see, the maid started all this. She had understanding. She said, oh, I wish my Lord to get with that prophet. He'd get rid of that leprosy. And that's exactly what happened, didn't it? But now, this is not even why we came here. Keep reading.
And he returned to the man of God, he and all his company, and came and stood before him. And he said, behold, now I know that there is no God in all the earth but in Israel. Now therefore I pray thee, take a blessing of thy servant.
See, now he went back to the man of God. Now he's happy he got healed of his leprosy. He could have been healed if he'd have did it in the first place, right? But it took him some time. Still worked for him. He went back, and he, just like the prophet said, he gonna know it's a prophet in Israel. He knew then. And he went back, and he, common sense tell you, if you didn't benefit like this, you want to help out, don't you? You want to give back, don't you? So this man had just common sense, right? He said, first of all, I know there's no God in all the earth but in Israel. I know y'all God is God. Couldn't no God do this but the real one. He said, but now I just want to bless you some kind of way. Take a blessing of your servant. This man a captain in the army, but he know he's servant to this prophet. He said, take a blessing of your servant. Verse 16.
But he said, as the Lord liveth, before whom I stand, I will receive none. And he urged him to take it, but he refused.
See, that shows you real servants of God. Just like Paul, he wasn't looking for nothing. He just gave a message about you giving back, but he wasn't looking for nothing personally. It wasn't going to benefit him personally. So the same way with this man of God, he said, as the Lord liveth before whom I stand, I don't want nothing you got. I will receive none. Now, how many of these big mega preachers would do this? Hey, they would have been had their hand. Matter of fact, they would have got paid before the healing took place. Just in case it didn't work. Because you know it wasn't going to work. They got to get paid beforehand. That's why they got to get paid even when they go places. But he said, I won't take none. And then the man urged him, but he still refused. You ain't got to urge no false prophet to take no money, do you? Verse 17.
And Naaman said, Shall there not then, I pray thee, be given to thy servant 2 mules, burden of earth? For thy servant will henceforth offer neither burnt offering nor sacrifice unto other gods, but unto the Lord. And this thing the Lord pardon thy servant, that when my master goeth into the house of Rimmon to worship there, and he leaneth on my hand, and I bow myself in the house of Rimmon, when I bow down myself in the house of Rimmon, the Lord pardon thy servant in this thing.
So he said, look, I want to make a sacrifice to your God, because I'm not going to worship no other God. He said, even if I have to do it for my boss, just forgive me for that, because I'm just going in there with him. But anyway, go ahead.
19. And he said unto him, Go in peace. So he departed from him a little way.
See, so he still didn't take nothing the man had. And he said, go in peace, and he departed a little way. But now what happened? Verse 20, go ahead.
But Gehazi, the servant of Elisha, the man of God, said, Behold, my master hath spared Naaman, this Syrian, and not receiving at his hands that which he brought. But as the Lord liveth, I will run after him and take somewhat of him.
See, sometimes there's always somebody greedy around. Now this guy, the prophet, and turned the man down. But now the servant of the prophet, he should know this man is working for God. How you just going to see this man heal this guy of this leprosy and all the other stuff he had saw him done and not know this is from God and you shouldn't be playing around? But now he got money on his mind. So he said to himself, my master spared Naaman this Syrian and not taking none from his hand, but as the Lord liveth, I'm going to catch up with him and get some. He said, I wasn't the one saying no, I want something. So he going to run behind the man after the man that left, and not only that, he going to lie to get what he going to get. He couldn't just tell the truth and say, well, like he said in his mind, well, my master didn't want nothing, but I want something. The man was going to give it up, wasn't he? So what happened? 21.
So Gehazi followed after Naaman, and when Naaman saw him running after him, he lighted down from the chariot to meet him and said, Is all well? And he said, All is well.
Go ahead.
My master hath sent me.
Now he's lying through his teeth. He's going to say, my master hath sent me, because that's going to make the man give it up even more. But that shows you he got another agenda. Now he hanging out with the prophet, but something else is on his mind. Go ahead.
Behold, even now there be come to me from Mount Ephraim 2 young men of the sons of the prophet.
Well, I tell you, don't take people long to make up a lie on their way somewhere, do they? He done made up a nice little story. Oh, you know, some came up, you know. A couple of guys came. My master wasn't expecting them. He want a little help. Just help them out a little bit. Just help them out. He should just told the man, look, I need something myself. But he gonna lie. Go ahead.
Give them, I pray thee, a talent of silver.
Give them, I pray thee. Right. Give them, I bet. Even the man knew better. Right. Go ahead. Give them, I pray thee, a talent of silver. What else?
And 2 changes of garments.
But what the man say?
And Naaman said, Be content. Take 2 talents.
See, he said, look, take 2 talents. He wanted to give more anyway, right? It wasn't nothing for the man, so he would have got something from the man either way, right? But he know he shouldn't have been doing that. Go ahead.
And he urged him and bound 2 talents of silver in 2 bags with 2 changes of garments and laid them upon 2 of his servants, and they bare them before him.
See, they even helped him carry the stuff back. Go ahead.
And when he came to the tower, he took them from their hand and bestowed them in the house. And he let the men go, and they departed.
See, he had to hurry up and put the stuff up. He didn't want nobody to see him with him. So just stop right here. I'll take it from here. He went and hid the stuff, put the stuff up. Said, all right, see you later. Got rid of him. Now he going to go back like he just a good old servant of God with the prophet. But he don't know this is a prophet for real, evidently. Go ahead.
But he went in and stood before his master.
Now he go back and stand before his master. Go ahead.
And Elisha said unto him, Whence comest thou, Gehazi?
Now the first thing come out is, where you been, Gehazi? Go ahead. Watch this lie. Go ahead.
And he said, Thy servant went no whither.
See, he just lied again. Oh, I'm just chilling. I ain't went nowhere. I just been chilling. Go ahead, 26.
And he said unto him, Went not my heart with thee?
He said, don't you know my heart went with you? The Lord showed him everything the man did. He said, my heart, he just asked him to see if he going to lie. He lied again. Went not my heart with you? Go ahead.
When the man turned again from his chariot to meet thee, is it a time to receive money?
Now he asked an important question. Is it a time to receive money? That's what somebody should ask these false prophets who talk about money coming. The whole world in shambles. You should be trying to help people understand the truth, but they lying, so they can't do that right. But their only concern is trying to get some money out of some people, right? See, tithes wasn't set up for that, was it? But that's their only concern. So the prophet, just like Paul, the prophet is giving us a good example on how we should be thinking, isn't he? Especially in a time like this, it's worse than in his time. Is it a time to receive money, he said? Go ahead.
And to receive garments, and olive yards, and vineyards, and sheep, and oxen, and men servants, and maid servants.
See, is that supposed to be your concern at a time like this? When people dying for starvation of the word of God. And and you only worried about your own personal well-being. Go ahead.
The leprosy, therefore, of Naaman shall cleave unto thee.
He said, you wanted a payday, you're going to get a payday, all right. You know that leprosy that man had? You got it now. You just bought it. I hope you enjoy that stuff. The leprosy, therefore, of Naaman shall cleave unto thee. Go ahead.
And unto thy seed forever. And he went out from his presence a leper as white as snow.
And he left out leper, white as snow. The same disease that the man was trying to get rid of, he ended up with it, all because he was greedy. He was covetous. Now, let's go further. Go to Proverbs 23. Let's show you it ain't time for that now. So even though we give a lesson about tithes, that's just another one of our duties, our responsibility. It ain't because somebody here looking for something for somebody. Proverbs 23. The world about to end. So ain't no way we should be worried about getting rich and money coming and all that like some of these prosperity ministers preaching. But this is the way it should go, the mindset you should have. You should be willing to contribute and give back. Just like Naaman was a good example. He knew he had been blessed by God, right? So he wanted to give anything back. That's why the man didn't even have to lie to him. He was going to give the man something no matter what. He tried to give it to the prophet, but the prophet wouldn't take it. So that's why Gehazi should have left it alone. But Naaman knew he supposed to give something back, right? He had common sense. Go ahead. Proverbs 23 and verse 23. Read that.
Buy the truth and sell it not.
Now, why would you buy the truth and sell it not? That's the mindset you need to have. You need to understand that you should be willing to pay whatever you got to get the truth. Or when you have benefited from the truth, you should be willing to do that. But then you shouldn't even want to turn around and sell it. You should be ready to give it away. So this is the mindset you need to have. He said, buy the truth and sell it not. See, they don't have that mindset in the average church. They talk about sell the truth. But they ain't even got the truth, so they selling lies. But that show you they on the wrong page. But the mindset we need to have, he said, buy the truth and sell it not. That's why, hey, I was glad to contribute to the place where I got the truth from. But we ain't going to turn around and be trying to charge people and beg people for money so they can get it, are we? Right. No, we willing to give it away. He said, buy the truth and sell it not. What else?
Also wisdom and instruction and understanding.
Okay, now go to Acts the 10th chapter. We almost done. Acts the 10th chapter. Just like Naaman, he was ready to pay for what he got. He was ready to pay for it. Because he knew he had got a great benefit. But the prophet wasn't selling nothing, was he? He wasn't selling nothing. He said, hey, he didn't even go out to meet the man. He know the man had some money. He didn't care nothing a bit more about that. That's why he insulted the man in the first place by not even going out to greet him. You know when no false prophet would have did that? They would have been, oh, I've been waiting on you, my son. Come on. Just like they even talk about, I heard this guy, they talk about this guy Armstrong who had a little bit of the truth. You know, he knew about the Sabbath day, feast days, but he was off as way out in left field about Israel, who Israel is, saying it's Great Britain and America. That's the Ephraim and Manasseh. He was way out there. But even people said about him how he couldn't wait to get around these dignitaries. That's how he got a lot of money. He was around people with some money, and he got a lot of money from people. He loved to be seen with some famous people. That's why he dead now. But even they had a lot of pictures of him with people with some money. He couldn't wait to be around, taking pictures with them. But he's supposed to have been preaching the truth to them. But hey, if you really got the truth, you don't care about none of that. Acts 10 and verse 1. Okay, go ahead. This is a Cornelius. And we're going to see what his mindset was, how he operated. And then we're going to see again how not to operate. 10 and 1. Go ahead.
There was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian band.
Okay, now this man was an Italian. I don't know how my Israelite brothers try to think he was an Israelite just living in Italy. No, he was a literal Italian. This when the gospel started going out to other nations. See, but they want to say that because they don't think the gospel should go to other nationalities. They think it should just be for Israel. That's what they believe to this day. So every scripture where it talk about a Gentile, they got to try to make it like it's a lost Israelite, which don't make no sense. Look, this is a real Italian, brother and sister. And it's going to let you know that by the way it speaks. That's why it was a big thing for Peter to go preach to. It wouldn't have been no big thing for Peter to go preach to a lost Israelite. That was the first calling. Wouldn't have been no big thing. One brother, I read this to him, he said, well, that's because there was other Gentiles there. Look, why was this Israelite only around Gentiles if he really was an Israelite? No, he was a Gentile. It was all Gentiles. Notice, it said there was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian band. He was an Italian. But let's make sure, verse 2.
A devout man and one that feared God with all his house, which gave much alms to the people and prayed to God always.
See, that's why I say he was a devout man and he feared God with all his house and he gave much alms to the people. So he was trying to help God's people, Israel. That's what it means, much alms. That means he was contributing. He was giving to the people of God. But that lets you know he wasn't an Israelite, because it wouldn't have said gave much alms to the people. What people? Israel. And he was a non-Israelite. But he understood the principle of giving back. Now let's go to Matthew 6. Matthew 6. See, and you don't even have to try to let people know if you're doing some giving. You don't have to let people know. It's going to be known anyway. But your job is not to try to show off and let nobody know. Cornelius wasn't letting nobody know, but it's still written that he did what he did. He wasn't trying to do it, though. He just was doing what he was supposed to do. And that's what paying tithes and giving offerings is about. What you're supposed to do. Matthew 6 and verse 1. Jesus is going to give you how you should operate when you operating in this principle. 6 and 1. Go ahead.
Take heed that ye do not your alms before men, to be seen of them. Otherwise ye have no reward of your Father which is in heaven.
See, you don't want to be trying to do nothing for show either. Cornelius wasn't doing that. But see, people going to know. The Lord going to let know who need to know. But Cornelius wasn't trying to be seen, but we see it written that he gave much alms to the people, right? See, so you don't even have to worry about it. That's why the Lord say, let another man praise you and not yourself. Let somebody else pat you on the back. You shouldn't be patting yourself on the back. Oh, yeah, I'm so good. Yeah, I got it. Oh, yeah, I gave so much money. I did that too. I be on it. I be on it. Make me want to kiss myself. People get carried away. But see, he have to warn us of that. See, because if you're doing what you're supposed to do, if the Lord wants somebody to know, they're going to know. But the important one to know is the Lord himself. He said, take heed that you do not your alms. See, alms mean you are giving. See, that's why we don't try to promote a lot of covetousness here. We don't try to, we don't treat nobody different than others. Somebody can give a whole lot of money, they can give a little money. It is no different. If somebody got a whole lot of money, that should be their responsibility, right? It should be no difference. We ain't going to tell nobody who to give a whole lot of money. Oh, brother, come over here. Matter of fact, you can sit on the stage with me. And then somebody that don't never get no money, we ain't got no seat up here. You get just a monitor back there. You go back there and check that monitor out in the back. We ain't going to do that. That's what James say about being a respecter of persons. He used that exact terminology. But now, he said, take heed that you do not your alms, that's given, before men to be seen of them. Otherwise, you have no reward of your Father which is in heaven. Verse 2.
Therefore, when thou doest thine alms, do not sound a trumpet before thee, as the hypocrites
See, that's what the preachers want people to do. That's why the preachers, they be setting people up, even with that coming up there throwing that money. They set people up with that stuff. See, they do that so more people would do it too, but that make people feel like they doing something. Just like I seen this one preacher, the one just got in trouble in Atlanta for supposedly messing with some boys. He, not too long ago, he had a woman come up in the middle of him preaching and give him a big stack of money. Right in the middle of, I'm talking about a big stack, probably was $1 bills, but it just was show. But anyway, she came with a big stack of money, interrupted his preaching, and handed him a big stack of money. Hey, that's the sermon he was about to get on anyway. You could tell, but it made like he had to change the script and start talking about that. That's what he wanted to do, and it was a setup. But I'm saying that ain't from the Lord. He said, verse 2, read it again. Somebody should have told this woman that, but she was probably on his payroll. Go ahead.
Therefore, when thou doest thine alms, do not sound a trumpet before thee, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may have glory of men.
See, that's what people are looking for. Go ahead.
Verily I say unto you, they have their reward.
They have their reward. It's Jesus telling you. Even if you're going to give in simplicity. You ain't got to be trying to let everybody know. People who need to know going to know anyway. You ain't got to be trying to let nobody know. That's what these preachers have people geared up for, though. That's why that Baptist church I went to, that's why they put everybody who made donate, they put it in the announcement the following week. And that made people want to give more so their name could be highlighted. But go ahead.
But when thou doest alms, let not thy left hand know what thy right hand doeth.
So you definitely ain't bragging about it if your left hand don't know what your right hand doing, right? You ain't trying to let nobody know. You just doing what you doing because it's your job. Go ahead.
That thine alms may be in secret.
Your alms gonna be in secret. Go ahead.
And thy Father which seeth in secret himself shall reward thee openly.
So when you giving something, that's who you trying to please. You ain't trying to please no man. See, that's why, I had people come here. Had a brother come here one time, and he was telling me, oh, brother, I'm going to put you in, I want you, he didn't say he's going to put me in his will. He's going to make me the executor of his will. I could care less. I'm going to make you the executor of my will. And he was always talking money. He was money. He's throwing money. He got money. But that didn't mean nothing. And I should have known he was going to get into some foolishness, because then he turned around and committed adultery. I guess he thought it wasn't going to say nothing to him. I said, man, you better stop or you better don't come back. And he ain't been back. But he was flashing money like that was going to mean something to somebody. Don't mean nothing. So if he was going to give something, hey, just give what you want to give and go on about your business. He said that thine alms may be in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret himself shall reward thee. See, we ain't saying you don't have to sign your name when you donate, because we ask people to do that so we can make sure, because it's legal, we have to give you a tax deduction. So we ain't saying none of that, but nobody here is trying to make a show of it, is what I'm saying. And some people even choose, they say, well, I ain't going to claim my tax. But that's personal, that's up to them. If you don't want to claim your deduction for what you donate on your tax, that's up to you. But there ain't nothing wrong with it, because the more you get back on income tax, hey, the better off you can be, and then you can donate some more. So ain't nothing wrong with it. But if you don't want to, you don't have to. So, but what I'm saying is that don't mean you don't sign your name, because we keep records, because we supposed to keep records to let people know what they have donated each year. But it means you're not just trying to let people know as a whole. Now, let's go to, we're almost done, Luke 18. Luke 18. Luke 18. So he teaching us that, yeah, tithes and offering is good. But you still need to have the right spirit when you're doing it. You need to have the right mindset. Even Jesus is going to tell us about tithes right here. In the New Testament, he's going to talk about it, but he's going to talk about somebody that was called themselves doing it, but their mind wasn't right anyway. See, if your spirit ain't right, it don't matter. Luke 18:9. Go ahead.
And he spake this parable unto certain which trusted in themselves that they were righteous and despised others.
See, he spake a parable unto certain. He said who trusted. Now this is a parable he given. But it's going to fit some people. Some people like who? Who trusted in themselves that they were righteous and despised others, he said, right? Verse 10.
2 men went up into the temple to pray. The one a Pharisee and the other a publican. The Pharisee stood and prayed thus with himself. God, I thank thee that I am not as other men are, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even as this publican.
See, now this man got the wrong spirit, right? He said 2 of them. Now they both going up to pray to God, but something is wrong. Something is wrong with this guy that's on his mind. So he go and he basically talking to himself really. God ain't listening to him. Only to listen to him to know that he ain't doing what he need to do. He said the Pharisee stood and prayed thus with himself. God, I thank you that I am not as other men are, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even as this, but now he's going to point the finger at somebody else in the process of his foolishness. Even as this publican. Now he's going to brag about himself. What he do? Verse 12.
I fast twice in the week.
Now he ain't telling nobody, but it just shows you his mindset, right? He ain't telling nobody. He praying to God. He's dumb enough to take his garbage to God. He said, I fast twice in a week, which would be good if you got the right mindset, right? I fast twice in a week. What else he do?
I give tithes of all that I possess.
Oh, he paying tithes, but that don't mean nothing to God, do it? Because his mindset still ain't right. He thinking, because look, whenever you doing what you supposed to do, that's just it. You only doing what you supposed to do. You only doing your duty. You ain't doing nothing magnificent. You only doing what you're supposed to do. So there's no reason for us to get big-headed, exalt ourselves like we more than we are. There's no need for that because you only doing what you should be doing. You ain't doing nothing special. So that's what he said. I fast twice in a week. I give tithes of all that I possess. See, he blowing a trumpet even in his own mind. He ain't even got to blow it in the street. He blowing it in his own mind. Now, go ahead, verse 13.
And the publican, standing afar off, would not lift up so much as his eyes unto heaven, but smote upon his breast, saying, God be merciful to me, a sinner.
The publican who he pointing the finger at. Now he gonna point the finger at, or even as this publican. I guess he can tell this man having some hard time. So he gonna point the finger at the publican, but now the publican, he got his mind trying to seek the Lord. So you got to be careful who you point the finger at. Now he didn't threw him under the bus, so to speak. And notice what the Lord said. The publican, he ain't thinking about him. He said he's standing afar off, would not lift up so much as his eyes unto heaven, but smote upon his breast, saying, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. That's all he's saying. He ain't thinking about this Pharisee over here. But notice what Jesus said.
I tell you, this man went down to his house justified rather than the other.
Oh, the publican went home justified rather than the other. Even though the other guy paid tithes. So you tithes ain't the answer in and of itself. A lot of people going to be paying tithes tomorrow, been paying tithes all of their life, and they don't have a clue about God. That's just another part of your responsibility. You need to know a whole lot more than that. Obviously, this Pharisee didn't know, did he? He said, I tell you, this man went down this house justified rather than the other. Why? Go ahead.
For every one that exalteth himself shall be abased, and he that humbleth himself shall be exalted.
See, that's the key in all things. But now one more place, Genesis 28. Genesis 28, and this is it. See, but it's good if everything else is in order. It's a good principle. You recognizing to give tithes or offerings or giving back period, that's a good principle from the Lord. And it started way before Levi. Here's Levi's father before Levi was even born, Jacob, and we're going to see what was on his mind. Genesis 28. That's how, again, I knew tithes didn't end because the Levitical priesthood ended, because I knew the tithes didn't start with the Levitical priesthood. Genesis 28 and 20. This is what Jacob said, who was Levi's father. And mind you, this is before Levi was even born. Levi wasn't born yet. Jacob didn't have no children at this time. Genesis 28 and verse 20. Go ahead.
And Jacob vowed a vow, saying, if God will be with me and will keep me in this way that I go, and will give me bread to eat and raiment to put on, so that I come again to my father's house in peace, then shall the Lord be my God.
Now he vowed a vow. Now where he get this from? See, this has already been passed down. We saw Abraham knew to pay tithe. He paid to Melchisedec, right? So obviously he passed that down to his son Isaac, which was Jacob's father, because Abraham was Jacob's grandfather. But now we down to Jacob, whose name later got changed to Israel. And he vowed a vow, say, if God be my God, he take care of me and give me bread to eat and raiment to put on, and allow me to come back to my father's house in peace, because he was getting ready to leave. Then shall the Lord be my God. Verse 22.
And this stone which I have set for a pillar shall be God's house. And of all that thou shalt give me, I will surely give a tenth unto thee.
See, he understood. Way before Levi even was in existence, right? He said, of all that you give me, because you just giving back what God then gave you, I will surely give a tenth unto thee. I hope you got some understanding in Jesus' name.